famous 19th and 20th century writer of occult and esoteric subjects, translated Levi's History of Magic into English. Waite was an integral conduit for Levi's work to be read by the English world. He critiqued and expanded on Levi's ideas. Another integral conduit for Levi's work into the English world was the infamous Aleister Crowley, who translated The Key to the Mysteries. In The Key, Levi, now an older man, reflects on his fiery love with his estranged wife, stating,
"An ambitious young artist with a bright future ahead of her was married to an honest man, a seeker of truth and a poet. She could reproach in him only that he loved her too much. She outraged him and left him, and since that time has continued to hate him. She is an honest woman, but the pitiless world judges and condemns her, and yet she is not, for this reason, guilty. Her only fault, if indeed she had one, was that she began by loving her husband madly and passionately." But, you will say, isn't the human soul free? No. When it abandons itself to the intoxications of the passion, it is no longer free. Only wisdom is free. Uncontrolled passion is the domain of madness, and madness is a fatality.
Coming from a poor and broken past, he also reflects on the idea of charity and how mankind must not forget to love through fellowship and give to one another. He states,
"Before charity, faith falls upon its knees and science bows vanquished. There is obviously something here greater than man. Charity triumphs over suffering and death and makes God sensible to every heart."
This was very important to Levi. He believed that the kingdom of Christ could only manifest through the works of humanity, through our deliberate building of a Christ-conscious world. Another strange and tragic story that occurred later in Levi's life is also recounted in his Keys of the Mysteries. He tells this story of his unusual meeting with Louis Verger, the murderer of the Archbishop of Paris, an event at which Levi was present. During winter, a local friend of Levi's related to him that a young clergyman desired to meet with him. Levi felt hesitant to meet this fanatically sounding person at his home, so they agreed to meet at Levi's friend's house, where he would be surrounded by other people. This young man was thin with pale eyes and a sharp-arched nose. He was an unpleasant character. He was twitchy and had a soft voice that stuttered. Levi questioned the boy on his intentions for the visit. He was looking for the grimoire of Honorius. Levi, skeptical, told the boy that not only is the book extremely rare, but of no real value. The kid said he has spent much time looking for it and would pay top dollar for it. Levi asked the boy if he was in the ministry, whereas the boy replied that he used to be employed but now spends his time searching for occult sciences. This worried Levi. He interrogated the boy in hopes that he was not looking to perform black magic. The boy only slightly nodded in indifference. Levi's friend, a reader of palms, noticed the boy's hands and asked to see them. He saw there written in the lines of the palm a very destructive path if not controlled. Levi's friend intensely recommended the boy seek to do works of charity so that his relentlessness could leave him and his ill fate could be turned into glory through acts of God. The boy just sneered in silence. Seeing that they were not going to help him in his endeavor, the boy left. Before he was gone, he turned around and exclaimed,
"You will hear from me before long. People will be talking about me."
When the boy left, Levi's other friend, whose house they were at, Madame A., told them about the conversation she had with the boy prior to Levi's appearance. She revealed the boy wanted to conjure Satan himself. The following January, Levi was walking the rainy streets when he had a grieving feeling and decided to follow a crowd of pilgrims making their way to the Grand Church of Saint Etienne du Mont during the festival of Saint Genevieve. As he and the others were passionately praying in the warm and solemn church, the venerable Archbishop of Paris walked in with his regalia and men. Shortly after, as Levi looked up, He and the rest of the churchgoers heard a shout of something that sounded like, "Down with the goddesses," as a young man stabbed the archbishop to death. Levi and the rest fled the church as the authorities attended to the faltering archbishop. Levi was later horrified as the local newspaper announced that the killer was the very same fiendish boy who had met with Levi not that long ago in hopes of acquiring the ancient grimoire of Honorius to summon Satan. The psychotic boy was later executed. Levi attracted all sorts of interesting characters, hoping to receive some entertaining act of magic or help with random problems. He was once urgently pressed by dairy farmers to help lift a curse on their land that caused their cows to stop producing milk. Levi gave them some sigils to place around the farm, and to their surprise, after 2 weeks, their cows were happy and healthy again. Levi was used to all sorts of ridiculous requests and charlatans parading the flagrant fashion of occultism as it became popular. The last 20 years of his life were finally calmed compared to the chaos that was the first 40 years. He spent the rest of his life in Paris. During those years, he was initiated into Freemasonry. He confessed that the experience with the lodge was not exciting. At that time, French Masonic thought was moving into a period of secularism and narrow-minded anti-clericalism that Levi could not help but find antipathetic and superficial. He believed that the rich Masonic symbolism and complicated knowledge had been lost to the Brotherhood, that they didn't really understand it. He eventually left the order. He began his last line of occult work, which was to give lessons on an individual basis to the small groups of men and women that came to study with him. He would also correspond to his students via letters. Louise Hutchinson, an Englishwoman who came to Paris to study with Levi, wrote in her book, Initiation, published in 1890, that Alphonse Constant was the only man I had known who had attained true inner peace. His good humor was unalterable. His gaiety and liveliness knew no end. Whatever the innate possibilities of the persons who came to him, he was always careful to speak in such a way as to be understood by them, while leading them as far as they could go. He used to wear a black velvet robe which set off his fine white beard. He was short, too stout for his height, with irregular features. But his light blue eyes sparkled with joyous and witty life. A world of speculation was revealed in his broad, high brow. In one of the last letters to one of his students, Levi details the way of his now aged life, saying,
I eat moderate meals, which satisfy my appetite without exciting it. My food is simple and substantial. I leave my work before I become overly tired. I take moderate, healthful exercise. I take particular care never to become overexcited or too fatigued in the evening, so that the greatest calm may precede sleep. Living this way, one can become aware of any nascent malady, while it can still be treated with the mildest remedies. Patience and good humor will do the rest. Everyone is good to me. When I pass by, children smile at me. My little cell never sees any but the kindest faces. Everything breathes an atmosphere of deep peace. The earth would be an Eden for me if my brothers and sisters were not suffering in it.
Alphonse Constant, the great occultist, Eliphas Levi, passed away May 31, 1875. On his desk lay an unfinished translation of the Vision of Ezekiel, his last mortal work. That was Alphonse Constant, a rare person indeed. Much of the occult culture in the present time owes him respect. He greatly influenced the evolving world into the free and open-minded society that is the world today. Though he was controversial in many respects, he was simply trying to understand the works of the great mystics, scribes, and prophets of old. Above all, he was trying to live for God in a deep and real way.